generation gap. So it is the second point, I think, that education of that not only that learning a particular thing, but in a different and a modern way of learning, that makes a great difference. And the third is of course the mindset. In bureaucracy, there are a lot of people who don't want to change. There might be some reason, but some are valid and some are invalid, not so valid ones. For example, I think we have been, our department has been experiencing a lot of difficulty in convincing the officers the use of digital signatures in the e-district projects. Most of the line departments officers are not agreeable to use of the digital signatures. We had to bring in a lot of experts, explain them for the use of digital signatures. So, you see, the change of mindset, that is also required for faster acceptance of e-governance. With this, I think that these are three reasons. That first is poverty, second education, and third is mindset of the bureaucracy. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. To my mind, the three reasons that are coming in the way of e-governance not happening in India and our government's not becoming smarter. Number one, back-end computerization has not taken place in the departments. This is, I feel, one reason why e-governance is not really happening. We don't have our systems properly in place in the government departments. Of course, under the knee gap, a lot of infrastructure is being created. We have state data centers coming up. SWANs are in place in most of the states. But SWANs would become like highways without cars, and data centers would become, again, warehouses without any goods, unless we have back-end computerization taking place. Unless this happens, we will not be able to offer any citizen-centric services to the citizens. That's why our CSC scheme is failing. Why aren't the citizens coming to the CSCs? It's because we have not been able to offer any citizen-centric services to the citizens. Then connectivity is another issue. That is, when I say connectivity, it's internet connectivity. I come from Sikkim, so we have problems of connectivity. 3-4 days, we are completely blacked out. So if you have to follow internet, if you have to make e-governance happen, connectivity must be ubiquitous. It should be something like electricity. It should be available everywhere. It should be available, if possible, free of cost for the citizens. So this is a second issue, complete internet blackouts. I think this should be taken care of in some manner. We must introduce technology like WiMAX, perhaps more of broadband and other type of technologies. VSATs in places where line of sight conditions are an issue. Then we do not want to change our processes. This is the third reason I feel is coming in the way of e-governance happening. We just believe in one-to-one conversions. If we have a payroll system, earlier a payroll system is being done manually, it then gets converted to a payroll which is done on the computer, or a ledger management system which was earlier being done manually, it is now being done on a computer. No intelligence is brought into the system. So we don't believe in changing processes, and neither do we want to change our attitudes. We have an attitude, do nothing and nothing will happen to you. So I think this mindset requires to be changed. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. I am very happy to welcome Mr. C.D. Ara, very senior IAS officer and now Chief Information Commissioner, AP Information Commission, sorry. And yeah, he gave me here as former, which is former? Okay, I'm sorry. Former Chief, all right. It's up to date, looks like. All right, former Chief Information Commissioner. Sir, as you know, You came, we had already started, but basically we want 3 reasons according to you, with your huge experience. What are the 3 constraints to make e-governance happen in our country? So that's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned, I think, as was corrected by my colleague, the Secretary Information Technology, I was Chief Commissioner, Information Commission. I demitted office a couple of days ago. When Pratap had first asked me to come here, my mandate was to signify the importance of the interface between RTI and e-governance. I think nothing can be more complementary, nothing can be more matching each other, nothing can be more made for each other than the e-governance and the RTI. I think conceptually we are all agreed that RTI was legislated, promulgated in this country. Basically, the democracy should take roots. How does democracy take roots? The power must shift from the corridors of power, from the establishment, from the bureaucrats, the politicians, to the people at large, and masse. How does power shift? Power is knowledge. So in case how the government works, what the rules, regulations are, what the procedures are, how a decision gets taken, how a person gets selected, how a project gets sanctioned, how a procurement decision gets finalized. I think these are the issues which must necessarily be more and more in public domain. The more they are in public domain, ipso facto, there will be a course correction and there will be a less room for miscarriage of justice, culpable, mala fide, one-sided decision to take place. RTI Act Section 4 is perhaps the most important. It signifies that the government is duty-bound to increasingly computerize its administration. There must be storage of data and easy retrieval of data, and that should be available for online dissemination to one and all. Section 4 also mandates that each and every public authority, and there are 17 components which have been specified as to what are the powers, duties, functions, delegations, what are the budgetary allocation, expenditure, what is the incidence of subsidy, and who are the people who benefit from the subsidy. If there are any boards, committees, subcommittees, what are their powers and functions? All this must necessarily be put on the website of the department concerned for immediate dissemination of the people. So I think in case we are aiming at real democracy, a vibrant democracy, a performing democracy, it implies a certain degree of informed, enlightened, and therefore empowered citizenry. I think the more and more people come to know as to how decision-making takes place in the government, the better it is that the government does not carry on a miscarriage of governance. Having said this, I think it's my firm belief that the sheer pressure of RTI will force the government sooner or later to go in for more and more e-governance. My own experience in the state of Andhra Pradesh in the last 4.5 years, if we take the first base year as 2006 and what has been the performance of the number of applications under RTI that has been triggered in 2009 and 2010, there has been almost 700% increase. I think more and more people are taking recourse to this very powerful instrumentality. And this instrumentality can only be serviced in case there is greater e-governance. So in my mind, I think whatever be the constraints in terms of budgetary allocation, resource allocations, there will be a crescendo of public demand which will enforce the government for greater allocations towards e-governance. I think there was somebody mentioned about before we go for e-governance, there should be good governance. I wonder if what really are the parameters of good governance. If you take for instance, the Administrative Reforms Commission report by Mr. Moily, he defined good governance. He defined good governance as a government which has transparency, which has accountability, which has predictability. A government cannot function differently for a slum and differently for somebody staying in Banjara Hills. And it should be participatory. I think if you take these 4 pillars that constitute good governance, I think there's a tremendous complementarity between RTI and good governance, because RTI also tries to establish accountability, transparency, predictability, and participatory governance. I don't know whether if I can take this example of recent steps where e-governance has been resorted to, and in one stroke, the element of corruption, the element of pick and choose, and element of patronage has been completely eradicated. I remember the days when I was in the Coal Ministry as Additional Secretary and subsequently as Secretary to the Government of India. I think, as you know, I mean, some of you will know, there is a core and there is a non-core. The core goes to thermal stations, steel plants, cement. Non-core goes into various bricks and other forging units. For non-core, the allotment is always on whims and fancies of the management of the coal companies concerned, of that small quantity which was allocated by government as non-core. And we had spate and spate of complaints resulting in vigilance inquiries, resulting in CBI inquiries.